Hey everyone, so today we're talking about the transmission in this 1939 John Deere A. So to be honest with you, I started making this video and I was going on saying how the gears in it looked good. Since I had all this apart in the first reduction gear cover off, I thought, well, let's just pop the cover off, take a look at everything. I thought the gears looked good, and I was going to do a video kind of showing inside, saying I'm not touching it. As I was recording it, I somehow missed one of the gears that I was looking at, and a few teeth on it are in pretty bad shape. So I'm going to go ahead and take off the shifter rail and probably the top shaft. I really don't want to get into taking the bottom shaft apart, so probably just leave it there. All of the other gears look okay unless I find something as I go down. In the last video I talked about ordering parts. I've gotten a few parts in. I know it's been a few weeks. The full engine gasket set has been on back order, so I actually had to order that from somewhere else. But that should be on its way, so hopefully we can start building this thing back together. And then I had an interesting find as I took the block off the other day because I just need to run a hone down it. I'll show you a picture here. As I pulled it out, in between the cylinders was an old broken piece of the coupler going from the oil pump to the camshaft. So that kind of threw my thoughts on this tractor in the air because I thought it was a fairly virgin tractor inside. Standard bore still, hardly worn. Everything, looking fairly good. But that tells me, if that coupler broke, either A, somebody caught it in time and didn't do damage, or B, if you run this tractor too long without oil pressure, it can ruin a lot of things. So who knows what was replaced. So let's go ahead and look inside here and I'll show you what I discovered and why I'm going to go ahead and start taking that transmission apart. So if you look inside here, that gear over there is what we need to address. Now, some, they aren't terrible. Like those look fine, but then you come around and those are pretty bad there. All of these gears here I think look okay. That gear there looks fine. The gear down there, it might have a little chunk. I don't know if we can see, little bitty chunks, but I think that's okay. I've never had an issue with this tractor shifting or anything like that. The differential gear all looks okay. So I think I just want to replace that gear there. So to do so, we got to take out the shifter forks and this top shaft. And we'll see what we find when we go in that far. Since this is a 39, it's just a 4-speed. Kind of unfortunate because you go on the road or anything, it's slow. Top speed is like 6 miles per hour. Not a good tractor for like a poker run or anything like that. So just this lever here goes one way into 2 gears. This one, the other, and then let me flip around so you can see the high-low real quick. Alright, so your high-low has like a tongue, a rod that sits down in between these grooves, and it slides that shaft over. I'll show you on the bottom. So here's your main shifter. Then there's your high-low. So you can see where, like I said, that kind of sticks down in between those grooves. So to get this apart, you've got your detents on these grooves, or on the shifter shaft. So this is like a rod here, and it's got a ball end, and there's a spring in there. And it's kind of a pain sometimes to get those, so I hate that I'm having to tear this apart. But you can see a notch here. So that would be one of the gears. I can't remember which one it is. Then you've got the same down here. This hole here, and there's one on the other side here, is so when you take this off, you can get that shaft and the detent out. Here you have your screw that holds this shaft radially where it needs to be, because there's a flat on the shaft. I'll show you when we pull it out, and that sits on the shaft to hold it on. It sits on the flat. Then this here is what is kind of holding the shaft in place. This is just screwed into that end. So what we'll do is I will have to take this cotter pin out, and we'll take this out, and then we'll slowly slide the shaft out, and we got to make sure we don't lose the detents and things like that as they come out. Alright, so we got this bolt out here. So you can see you set this again, and then you use this nut here to lock it. I got the bolt out the end there. Recommend loosening this bolt first, because once you take this out, the shaft is free to turn. Got this big cotter pin out. Just once you have this off, go ahead and rotate the shaft so you can get to the end real good. Take it out. And I'm starting to now push it out the pulley side. And then you can see, so this is where that set screw kind of sits, is on that flat there. Now the interesting thing on the B and G, there was a hole in these stems. When they were in between gears, you could stick a wire through it and it would hold it in that position. That way when you slid this off, everything didn't fall right out. I don't see that here. So I may just have to be extra careful as I take this off and slide those out and try not to lose anything. Alright, so I'm going to use my radiator top as a storage spot here temporarily. But I wanted to show you, so here are kind of the detents that I talked about. So in each one of those shifters, it's a piece like this. You have a spring, and then this piece here, a little shaft. And what's nice about the later series is they put a hole in the top of this, so that when that goes up in there, you'll see, once I get the hole lined up, if I can. Alright, well, it's not one to line up. That detent sits right here, and that spring pressure keeps it right in the middle of nowhere. And so to get that back on eventually, you can't just shove your way through it. It's sticking out too far. On the later series, you would push that in. So if you watch my later videos like my G, you push that in, and then you'll see that hole stick out through the shaft on the end. You stick a wire through it, and it holds it up, even under the compression of that spring, such that you can feed it on and off. But probably what I'm going to do with this, and this is what they recommend on the PTO engagement shifters, I'll find a rod about this size. So I'll push it in, shove that rod through while I'm able to push it through here. And then when you slide it on the shaft and you get it close, then as it slides on the shaft, it pushes out that rod, and then you don't have to fight it. So next thing, so to get this top shaft off, the really fun part, there is a snap ring here, and we got to get this snap ring off. And by the way, I took this cover off earlier. Nothing really to see here. Since this is a 4-speed, you don't have a set of gears out here, and you don't have a shifter fork coming out here, because this is where your 5th and 6th gears would be. So we're going to take the snap ring out, and then this shaft should come out this way. Alright guys, I'm not kidding you, getting this snap ring out is like a 20-minute ordeal. People say there's a special snap ring tool that makes it go easy. I don't know. What I ended up doing, these ends were close enough together that you could shove a screwdriver in between them, pried down, and then I got something started and I just kept working my way around and working it out. So at this point, I think we can get that top shaft out. Okay, so how this works is this shaft here, the end of it actually feeds into, this is like a gear and bearing assembly, part of what sticks out here for the first reduction gear. This is like a press fit, hence the snap ring holds that in. In order to get it pressed out, you can see I've got it started already. You have to, it's almost like an oxymoron, gently hammer this with like a sledgehammer. Make sure you got the nut on or something. Don't screw up the threads. Got to hammer that and force it way out. And then once this shaft comes out, comes off, and the gears slide off, pay attention to them. So this one will come off first, and this one, and this one, and from there that piece comes out. Okay, so one thing that didn't go according to plan, this bearing here, which sits inside of that gear there, stayed on this shaft. I can't slide the gears off with that bearing on, it's kind of pressed on there. Sadly, to continue pounding that out, I need to force it through this hole. Well, to get this piece out, I got to take this off, take that bearing out that's in there, because it comes out this way. Then this piece can come out, and then I can get a hammer and pound that shaft through and take that bearing off. So I guess I'll do that, and that might be a good stopping point for the day. Alright, I'm holding this with one hand here. I got this piece off. Kind of important, I believe that is a shimmed piece. To go back and confirm. So once you pound this shaft through, because it is pressed into kind of this bearing here comes out. This is a very special bearing. If you look up the bearing conversion number and order an equivalent bearing, it will not have this snap ring in here. So if you need to replace this bearing, just order it from John Deere. It's way more expensive, but you will have the original snap ring in there. Otherwise, I don't really know. I'm curious what the real point of the snap ring is, because it's seated in here, but you've got this gear holding it in, and the shaft and everything, and then you've got this piece that it's sitting against. So I don't know. Anyway, so with that piece there, this piece, give me a second to get that out. There we go. So you can see that's where that bearing is supposed to go, and that other gear mates up with the inside of that gear. So now that I got that out, we can pound on the end of that shaft, get that bearing off, and slide that shaft out and be done. Alright, why use a hammer when you can just use a little puller? So I got, with that gear out, I was able to get a puller in there and just pull it off. And then yeah, so there's the bearing that went on this end. Here are the gears in their order. And let's see here, where? There we go. Yeah, not too good. So luckily, I have this one here. Had this from a parts tractor. Fairly good. A little bit of roundness to a couple, but hey, it's all right. Yeah, if you wanted to get the bottom shaft out, it's kind of similar. You got a big snap ring in here. These are nice. They don't have that spanner nut on them like the later ones do. I'm trying to remember which side it comes out on. Let me go look at the other side. Yeah, I can't remember. I think it goes out the other side. I think you take this off and you hammer from this side, and you keep pulling the gears off one at a time as it goes out the other side after you take that snap ring off, because I believe this is a tapered cone bearing. So yeah, I'm going to call it quits here for the day. I'll just go ahead and do a video of this, putting it together another day. Then by then I should have the parts for the rest of the tractor. And we'll start moving forward again. Everything else looks good. I looked at the gears again. They're all good in there. So yeah, give me a thumbs up. Let me know what questions you guys have. And just taking those snap rings out are just a real pain. Real pain. That's the worst part to this. So yeah, you all have a good day, and I'll see you when I see you.